Yeah.
Do you wanna?
Okay. I'm gonna introduce that.
Okay.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Shuang and I'm currently a PhD student in University of Göttingen, Germany. And it's my honor to be the host of this session. At first, we have 4 people in our session, so I try to say, okay, each person you should control your time within 25 minutes, or otherwise I will stop you. But now I think I don't need to say this because I don't know why we have just 2 persons in our session. I think we're gonna have a very productive session, and please take as long as you could, as long as you want. So don't worry about time.
Can you check Isabel is presenting because she's a caller?
So I don't know if the people online can hear me. You can see that there is Isabel Schlup, and I saw that there is a co-author of the second presentation of the day. I don't see Gloria, neither here, neither. Oh, okay, fine. Oh, then we find Gloria. Okay.
That's great.
A lot of time.
Okay, now each person have 25 minutes to present. So let's so the first presenter is Tassinari, Mr. Tassinari, who will give us a presentation about energy bio-based alternatives from innovation niches to dominating products. So time is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thank you all of you to be here. I know that it was tough, so I really appreciate that. So my name is Gianmaria Tassinari. I'm a PhD student at Wageningen University, and today I'm going to present a working paper we are doing together with my supervisors, Claudio Seregaroli and Dusan Drabik. And again, it's about emerging bio-based production and how to develop those markets, how to boost these niches to dominating products in the market. Just a little bit of introduction. So the idea of this paper was inspired reading the Green Deal. So, you know, with the Green Deal, the European Commission confirmed its commitment to deal with the climate change, with environmental issues, is investing a lot of money on that, 1/3 of the long-term budget. And when you read the Green Deal, you can see that they state that the European Commission, the member states, they have the potential for a more sustainable and circular bioeconomy and sustainable path. But when you get into the detail of the document, you see that to actually achieve a more sustainable bio-based sector, it will take a lot of time, 1 entire generation. So when we were looking at it, well, we thought, yeah, definitely take a lot of time to switch to a bio-based, a more sustainable production system. But we believe that we don't have an entire generation to reach such a goal, and we need to boost and improve this time. And well, it's not that impossible if you look at the potential of the current situation in the market. So when you look at the bioeconomy and the bio-based productions, there is this in the literature, there is this big difference between drop-in alternatives and dedicated products. So the drop-in solution are those products that can be either produced from fossil-based feedstock or a bio-based feedstock. But at the end of the day, the product is actually the same. So they are perfect substitute competing for the same demand. The dedicated solution instead are emerging innovative products. They do not exist yet, and they don't have a specific market, and they need to change the value chain somehow to be actually developed in the market. So it takes a lot of time actually to be developed properly. But the drop-in solution, everything is there. So in this paper, we focus on this type of solution. And we were interested in this kind of research question, which policy can be actually boost and stimulate a higher market share for these drop-in bio-based solutions, and which one is the most effective? Now, to reply to this question is not that easy because we don't have data. They are emerging bio-based production, so it's an ex-ante impact assessment, and to deal with that, we develop a partial equilibrium model that now I will try to explain, even if it's 9 o'clock in the AM, but that's our main work until now. So first of all, we consider two sectors. One providing an input to another sector. So imagine like a chemical used to produce, for instance, plastic from a second sector. In these second sectors, there are two market segments. One, what we will call from now on, a fully determined bio-based firm. So those firms that buy only a bio-based input because they believe in the bioeconomy, because they invest in it, and because they think it's the future. So no matter about the price of the fossil-based, they go for the bio-based product. And obviously, this at the current state of the art, in the current situation, is very small group. It's a very low demand. Then there is a second firm that we are going to call indifferent firm. This indifferent firm is actually indifferent if the product is made from biomass or from a fossil-based feedstock, because the product is the same. That's the only thing that they care, and they care only about the price. Obviously, they go for the cheapest one. And in our model, we assume that as the current state of the art, that the price of the fossil-based is lower to the price of the bio-based. Now, because of this structure, we have three types of demand. Now, don't worry about the math, it's very simple, but listen on what I'm saying, and you will understand everything pretty clear. So, from the bio-based firm, purchasing the bio-based product, we have a demand that depends only on the price of the bio-based. And we model that with a constant elasticity form. From the indifferent firms, we have two demands. They both depend from the two prices. So from the price of the fossil-based and the price of the bio-based. And we derive these two demands from a minimization cost problem, where basically, for instance, the industry producing plastic is using our feedstock, if produced from bio-based or from fossil-based, to produce plastic and minimizing the cost. Now, we introduce a convex function, a quadratic function, to express a cost associated to the emissions. So basically, in the minimization cost, we have a cost associated to the consumption, to the emission related to the consumption of the product. So if you buy more fossil-based product, more fossil-based input, then you emit more emissions and you have a higher cost. Now, at the current state of the art, you know that you don't pay such a cost, so this element is very low. But we introduced this element so we can actually shock it and understand what will be the impact, for instance, on the taxation on CO2 emissions. This is the demand side of the model. On the supply side, instead, we have a production function for N firms producing the fossil-based input and N firms producing the bio-based firms. We use a little production function. It's within a decreasing return to scale. With this property, we were able to endogenize in our model also the number of firms, because we believe that it's a really important indicator. It's not only about quantity, but it's also about like how many agents are playing into the market. Then, because of this property, the model can only be in the short run. So because we are in the short run, we have a profit function. And it's very simple. It's the difference between the revenue and the operating and fixed cost. Now, the only difference is between the profit, the revenue of the fossil-based and the revenue of the bio-based. So when we were modeling, we were thinking about this bio-based industry producing a product that is exactly the same of the one that it's actually in the market, and it's made of a fossil-based. And we thought like, well, nobody said that you cannot sell it as a fossil-based, or at least with the price of the fossil-based, right? And we made this comparison with the milk production. So think about the premium milk and the high quality milk. They cover a very small demand, selling the milk with a high quality for a higher price, and the rest of it is not throw it away. They just sell it as a conventional milk. So in the same case here, we have the same approach, and we introduced these fee terms, which is the share of the production allocated to the bio-based market segment, or the difference so allocated to the fossil-based. Now, we also thought like, okay, this fee should be endogenized in the model because it depends on the prices. If the prices are not that different, well, it doesn't make any sense to go for the bio-based. The price is the same, and it's better to cover the higher demand for the fossil-based, right? So we also endogenize with a logistic function the parameter. Now, to add the explanation of the model, we have two market clearing condition where the total demand is equal to the total supply. And thanks to this structure, we endogenize prices, quantities, number of firms, and the share of production allocated to the bio-based market. Now, once we structure the model, what we have done basically is the calibration process. And to calibrate the model, we use an instrumental case study, which is the 1,4-butanediol. So this product is really important in our economy. And it's a chemical building block used for many different applications. It's used for plastic, for elastic fibers, polyester, polyurethanes, pharmaceutical, even drugs. They use for everything. It's mainly produced in Asia and in China, but also has a big component in the West countries, in America and in Europe, but the biggest leader here is BASF. And has a market of around 80 billion and a production of around 3 million metric tons. And at the current state of the art, it's mainly produced 99% from acetylene, sorry, from fossil-based and mainly from acetylene, with a technology developed in the Second World War. There is already in the market a biotechnology able to produce the same molecule, the same product from biomass, developed by Genomatica in the USA. And there is also an important industrial application of it. In Italy, we have Novamont with a plant with a production capacity of 30,000 tons of this product. So everything is there. We just need to invest on this kind of production. So how to invest on it? And these are only preliminary results that I show you how to look at how the model works, but we didn't get into the detail of the different policies at the moment. We just finished the calibration process. But here, to show how the model works, what we have done is to simulate a subsidy on the capital investment of the bio-based production. So like what will be the impact to reduce the capital investment, which is a major barrier for the bio-based production of 10, 20, 30 till 50%. What will be the impact? So starting from the prices, what we can see is the ratio between the bio-based and fossil-based. We can see that the bio-based product is getting, the price of the bio-based is getting lower. So it's getting more competitive, and because of that, we have an increase of the demand, not only of the fully convinced bio-based firms that buy only the bio-based products indifferently from the price of the fossil-based or the bio-based, but mainly it comes from the switching of the behavior of the indifferent firms. So they say, well, if I have a little bit of cost associated with emissions, maybe it's better to move on the fossil-based because the price is getting basically the same. So there is no reason, there is a switching of this side of the demand. The other things that you can see, even if the price is getting lower for the bio-based firms, the profit of each individual firm is getting higher because it's getting more competitive. Why? Because they have much more demand compared to the previous one. So even if we have a reduction in the price, we have an increase of profit. And because of that, we have an exponential increase of the number of firms in the bio-based market segment. It's exponential because it's representing the ratio between the number of firms, fossil-based and bio-based. And we have both a reduction in the number of fossil-based firms and an increase in the number of bio-based firms. And all of these conditions have the main implication that we are reducing basically on half the GHG emissions for this specific sector. So that's how the model works. And so I don't really have a conclusion, but I can tell you how we are going to contribute to the literature. So definitely this model and this analysis will help to understand the inner working of mutually linked markets, like for these fossil-based and bio-based drop-in solutions. Then obviously we are going to provide qualitative and quantitative evidence for policymakers, for evidence on different type of policies that it's not easy to provide with the current state of the data, that there is no data actually for the market, so you cannot do an implementing analysis on that. And also, for the best of our knowledge, there is not such a methodology and in the literature, so it's also an improving of the method. And what are we going to do next? And I will leave you. So we have the idea to simulate 3 different scenarios. So one of taxation of CO2 emission, one of the subsidies, and likely also the combination of the 2. Because we know that the subsidies are not really welcome at a policy perspective, because it's a very expensive policy. And the real challenge is to understand which one is the most effective one. And we are going to look at the total welfare in the model. And as you can probably imagine, there is a lot of uncertainty surrounding the results, because it's an innovative market, because the model is very simple itself. So we are going to also have an important scenario analysis and sensitivity analysis with a Monte Carlo simulation. And instead of giving just a value, we are going to fit in the model with the distributions of values. And yeah, that's it for my side. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. This presentation is about the valorization of apple byproducts and how to contribute to SDG 12 on responsible consumption and production. The presentation is based on a collaborative project called the Fruival, which is underway at the School of Management in Fribourg, Switzerland. The project is led by Isabel Schlueb, that I see online. Greetings to Isabel. And I work with her. The project is sponsored through the new regional policy initiative by the Swiss government, channeled through the Economic Promotion Agency of the Canton of Fribourg in Switzerland, and complemented with the cash and in-kind contributions of participating companies. The project started in April 2022 and will end in January 2023. So this work is still ongoing. We have preliminary results. Nonetheless, we have many valuable findings that we would like to share with you. Even though the project is situated in the Swiss context, many findings and conclusions apply to other countries as well. At the end of the project, we hope to have a solid database, fact sheets that allows small and medium enterprises, producers of apple juice and other products generating residues, to find profitable circular business models. The idea is to turn costly disposal of apple commerce waste into a profitable, valuable resources. So here you see the outline of the presentation. I will give you a context with the research question in Fruival project, material and methods used, the results, preliminary results we have, and I will draw the conclusion. So I pass to the context and research questions. So from the production of apple juice, there remains a byproduct apple commons. So we are talking about a byproduct, a biomass that actually is considered as a waste. And it remains in considerable quantities. The apple is the favorite fruit of Swiss and in many other countries as well. Apples are indeed the third produced fruit worldwide, as you can see from the graphic. Apple pomace accumulates in large quantities, mainly during the harvesting, seasonal. Mostly it is a seasonal product. And occasionally juice is pressed from apples coming out of storage. The problem with the apple pomace biomass is that it degrades quickly and it starts to ferment if left untreated. To be able to use this biomass better and not to dispose of it, for instance, with incineration or in landfill, as happens in some countries, and this is something that we know causes really relevant environmental problems related to the emission of methane and its acidity. It has to be stabilized. Apple pomace can, for example, be dried and made storable. However, energy for drying is expensive, and if not done on site, there is the problem of transportation, because actually it is a really heavy biomass, and the logistics cost can be really expensive. Controlled fermentation on site will be another possibility to upcycle the apple pomace, but this has to be explored. Many new products, in any case, are arising related to controlled fermentation. Many small and medium enterprises, apple juice producers, do not have actually the means to valorize apple pomace today. We are looking now for solutions to adhere to SDG 12 for responsible consumption and production. So here you see the research question: how can small and medium apple juice producer valorize apple pomace from waste to valuable research? Together with the consortium in a frugal project of different producers of apple juice, where apple pomace actually is considered a waste, we want to find a basis for decision in order to valorize the apple pomace. In order to do this, we want to allow us to channel apple pomace into high value added products with an economic benefit. The application should be, of course, ecologically sustainable and, of course, also economically feasible. We have to consider, for instance, the carbon footprint emission related to the production and the different environmental options that can be pursued. We have to aim for circular business model in order to find also industrial production capacities that can be put into place. So maybe on-site solutions as well can be feasible, such as, for instance, fermenting on site, and processor that comes to juice producer with mobile processing equipment can be another possibility. We want and we have to work within the Swiss regulatory framework. So the project and the solutions we are looking for has to be, of course, adapted to the framework, political frameworks, and of course the Swiss context. Ideally, this project will lead to follow-up projects related to a circular business model in order to produce a specific products. So what are the materials and methods of our project? As you can see here, we adopt a mixed method with desk research, expert interviews, and we are working also on cost calculation. Desk research is an important part of our research. We want indeed to capitalize on existing research. Studies on apple pomace in different research fields such as food science, engineering, chemistry, energy, fuels, and agriculture have been published and have increased during the last years. To build a basis for decision making, we also need to know where apple pomace is produced and in which quantities and how it is used, transform and by rooms. So we are working with expert interviews in order to map what is happening into the market. From literature and statistics, we find actual and potential valorization paths. I will give you some ideas related to what are our findings up to now. The expert interviews have been already carried on with different partners in the consortium, and we have gathered many insights into actual production, including information on costs, benefits from also large companies in the sector. We know information on best practices and from the food science industry experts, we are pointing out promising new technology, and we are gathering information on what are the promising technologies that can be applied. Cost calculation is still ongoing, and it will be done specifically for the most interesting food streams that we will find for apple commerce valorization. And of course, we have also to consider investment into new infrastructures, because as I mentioned, the problem, main issue related to the valorization of apple commerce is it's also its transportation. So I pass to the results. As I told you, those are preliminary results, because the project is going to finish in January 2023. But what can we now say is that, of course, apple commerce is a versatile byproduct. It is tasty, it is rich in fibers. So we have carbohydrates, polymers such as starch, cellulose, lignin, pectin, and hemicellulose. It is poor in protein, around 4.5%. You see in the yellow print. And even though this seems any case low, there might be, we found a potential to use apple commerce to produce vegetable protein products by means of extrusion processes. The apple commerce is reduced in sugar, and it has excellent nutritional properties to improve digestion in both humans and animals because of fibers. The red frames that you see in the slide highlights where industrial scale applications are present in many countries. For instance, for pectin production, that is a medium to high value product, or for the extraction of polyphenols that can be used also in functional food, or also for cosmetics and pharmaceutical reasons. Other applications such as the extraction of lignin or hemicellulose are available at a laboratory scale and are awaiting actually upscaling. So this is also an issue not related to the economic feasibility for the valorization of this product. So there are, as I mentioned, many potential applications. Here I list some of them, and we are still analyzing and evaluating which of these applications can be the best option for apple commerce. So the applications, as you can see, can be transversal with respect to different industries, not only then in food industry, but also feed, pharma, cosmetics, textile, chemical, packaging industry, consumer goods, building, and agroforestry. So I give you, as I mentioned, some examples of applications. In farming and gardening, we found that apple commerce can be valorized as animal feed or pet food. Cows love fresh commerce, or horses like cookies from dried commerce or pellets. There are already some examples of this kind of products. They are high in fiber and lower in sugar content. And this is, of course, relevant and beneficial for the intestine. As far as energy production, we can make biogas. that is in many cases transformed into, of course, electricity and heat, or pellets to heat houses. In the food and beverage industry, we can use apple pommes for human food, has dried flour, and it can be added, for instance, in breakfast cereals in order to get the so-called superfood. There are also byproducts, as I mentioned, like pectin, that can be extracted and used as thickener in jams, potentially through extrusion of wet apple pommes, vegetable protein products that are meat substitute and that can have a similar texture, can be upcycled. And this is a food stream that we are investigating and we are considering, and we considered really relevant for apple pommes in Switzerland. Another example on fabric and apparel, there are some examples of apple leather that is produced by a company in Südtirol, in Alto Adige, in Italy. There are also Swiss companies that are working on this. Wax can be also extracted for apple pommes. It can be used to treat fabric to make them waterproof. And there are also other examples, for instance, in an Interreg project, different business models out of apple pommes have been tested. I give you some examples: reusable dishes, biodegradable packaging material, apple books, and apple cosmetics have been produced. The potential for high value added products exists, but the challenges still remains. Because we have to move from this linear economy to the circular economy, and there are still some barriers related to costs, and related to also logistics, and related to the lack of collaboration and partnership as well. So currently, apple pommes management and challenges are related, as I mentioned, to cost, transportation, quality of the product. Mainly from the analysis of the Fruival project, we found that still the producers use apple pommes and consider apple pommes as a waste. So juice producers would pay for the transport of apple pommes to them for being composted or fed to animals or being used in anaerobic fermentation installation for the production of biogas, or to be, in the worst instance, hauled to an incineration plant. To our knowledge, the landfill option is not permitted in Switzerland. In short, the small medium enterprises that produce apple juice treat apple pommes still as a waste. The challenges here are related to the capability to upcycle the product, and they relate to the fact of the intrinsic features of the product itself. Perishable product that ferments quickly, and it has to be stabilized, otherwise it has to be fermented with another process. Large quantity of apple pommes in a short period of time related to harvesting, and a high cost of transportation. The product is also bulky. The demand for new product is still to be determined. So we don't know if there will be a demand, for instance, for high protein flour from mealworms that are fed with hydrated apple pommes mix. And processing stabilization cost can be also high. In synthesis, new products are possible, but many times only available at laboratory scale. So the challenge is to scale them up, matching technical innovation and creating new circular business model. And this is feasible only with investments and a precise political agenda. So here you see in the graph the hierarchy for what are the priorities for the valorization of waste, of food waste. Of course, prevention, reuse in human consumption, animal feed, material recycling, nutrient recovery, energy recovery, as this preferred option disposal. So for Apple Commons, actually, there is an example of another product that can represent the second option. So reuse for human consumption, and I mentioned it already. So Apple Commons undergoes under an extrusion process. Protein are then extruded and mixed with waste from byproduct from cereal productions in order to get a substitute of protein, plant-based protein, basically. So vegan meat and vegan dairy products. So this is an example, and there are different. There are some initiatives related to this in Switzerland, but everything is still on a forced phase. Now I draw the conclusions. So in the area of biomass, there is basically an untapped potential to come up with more responsible patterns of production and consumption related to SDG 12. Innovative technologies seem to be available and are looking for practical application. We need to match supply and demand. Therefore, SDG 17 is also important because it is asking for collaboration. And in this specific framework, in the valorization of biomass, this is of paramount importance. And without bringing stakeholders all together, finding a solution, it won't be possible actually to address this challenge. In the case of Switzerland, we will need, for instance, also a political move, for example, in the form of a bioeconomy strategy for biomass that might contain incentives and point to a conducive regulatory framework. The regulation of new products, especially for food and feed application, needs to be non-cumbersome. For instance, we have the example of insects as food. So they have one by one being approved, even if there is already an overall okay for the consumption of 3 different types of insects, both in Europe and in Switzerland. Best practices need to be showcased, and it's important to capitalize on research. So not leaving research activities and papers on scientific journals, but being able to put them all together to understand what is feasible and what is not, by really leveraging this value, the value of research. So to create circular business models featuring Apple Commons, comprehensive data is required to do cost-benefit analysis, including environmental performance analysis when it's possible. We still are working on this and on a business case to invest and to understand if there is the willingness to invest in new products. Collaboration among industry partners and research needs to be fostered and, as I mentioned, capitalized. Access to finance for small and medium enterprise is important also to enable new investments into circular business solution. And with this, I finished. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
So I'm gonna give the third and also the last presentation. So, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we don't need to. So after that, I will stop the recording.
Thank you for still being here, and this is the last presentation. My name is Shuang, and this is the work that I did 1 year ago when I was a visiting student in Rutgers University. This study is try to consider the product certification and e-commerce, how they can affect the farmers' performance. This is my outlines. We start with the introduction. Well, agricultural products are prone to be information asymmetry. For example, if I were a producer and I produce my apple in a very good practice, but the consumers, they do not know that how do I produce these products. So I producing good practice and I pay more cost, I pay more inputs, but if I receive the same price from the consumer, like with other the producers, so that means it is kind of a waste for me to produce a good product. I can just pretend that my product is good and then sell a high price, or I can choose to, okay, I can just produce like the okay products and sell it in an average price. So in this way, the agricultural producers, like the producers in China, they have different characteristics. They can employ different strategies to inform the consumers that my product is better and it is worth to pay me the higher price. So they can choose different strategies. And in the two strategies in my paper is first, they could get their product certified, and this is product certification. And the second way is the second way is a new way in China. It's called the online selling. You cannot it is hard to believe that 10 years ago the rural residents they barely use internet, but right now almost more than 90% of the people in China, even in rural areas, they can use smartphones, they can buy things and sell things online. So there is a choice for them to use the internet selling this kind of channel to advertise their product and get a higher price. So I'm gonna introduce the product certification a little bit more. These are some the logos for the product certification for food in China, and the first one is the safe food, and this is the basic regulation. It is kind of compulsive regulation for the producers, your product must be the safe food. But if you are if you try to produce better product or better apples, you can get your apple certified with green food or organic food or the graphical indicators. With those kind of certification, this labeling method can signal the consumer that, okay, this product is better than other products, so maybe I should try this and I can pay the higher price for those. And yeah, this is some examples for the online sale channel. So Taobao and Jingdong are the two biggest online sale channels in China right now. So farmers, they can open their little online shop. It's very easy, and I think like 5 years ago, they don't need to pay the like register fees. They can just open an account. It's like eBay. But right now, I think they already like still they kind of like start to charge the those kind of online owners some kind of register fees, but it's still not very much, like 1,000 yuan. Okay, 150 euro, like for 1 year. So in this way, farmers can choose to sell their product online. And we could say that this is just a simple pictures, but it also have the function like the live stream and also the videos. So the producers can show or demonstrate their product attributes like in different ways. Yeah, and then there are several literatures already investigate the factor that affects the producer's decision whether they will adopt the product certification or not. For example, there is a literature found that the producer, whether the producer gets product certification depends on their own characteristics. For example, the education level and their and the other like the market structure as well as the government's regulations. And there are also literatures investigate the impacts of product certification on consumers' willingness to pay and producer sales revenue and profits. This is for the product certification, and also there are a lot of literatures investigate the factors affect the farmers willing to adapt e-commerce, and also literatures focus on the impact of e-commerce adoption on producers' economic performance. Well, although many studies investigate the impact of product certification and e-commerce on revenue and price, but the effect of sales, like production costs and profits, are still largely ignored. And the majority of the studies use small-scale survey data, so they are limited to the specific region. If we have the very limited data, we can only study for one region or for one product. Is it kind of hard for us to identify the heterogeneous effects? So our study, we use the survey data of 3,006, almost 3,700 farmer households in 22 provinces in China. It's almost covered all the provinces in China. And also in our questionnaire, we not only examine the price and the sales, the revenue, we also ask for the specific cost and profit. So in this way, we can analyze the farmers' economic performance more comprehensively. Yeah. So the key research question in one word is whether and how much product certification and e-commerce can benefit the producers, and in order to investigate the heterogeneous effects, we separate farmers into green crop farmers and cash crop farmers. Yeah, this picture gave a theoretical framework which modeling the effects of product certification, e-commerce on agricultural producers. As you can see, the products like we have different types of producers, and they have different characteristics, and they have different resource constraints and market access. So they can choose whether they want to have product certification or whether they want to use e-commerce, or they can use both of these information disclosure strategy. For product certification, the China has 4 kind of product certification right now. For the e-commerce, the farmers are easy to use the online selling channel to demonstrate their quality, to increase the consumers' awareness and reduce the intermediates. So in this way, we can kind of reduce the information asymmetry in the market, and then this kind of strategy may have some effects on product price, sales volume, and production cost, and hence affect the sales revenue and profit. So we formulate this model to illustrate our hypothesis, but I'm not gonna bother you with all this mathematic procedure. I'm gonna just introduce the key indicators inside. The P is like the price, and Q is for the sales volume, and C is the cost, and CD is the cost for the information disclosure strategy. And I introduced the theta into this profit function because we think the quality gonna affect the price, and also the quality will affect the quantity. And it is also obvious that if we produce the high quality products, the unit cost can be increased with the quality. So that's why I formulate this profit function in this way. And also, some literature also consider like the information, like the transparency of the information, or the final effects of the information transmission. So they introduce this gamma parameter, which means, okay, I tell you that my product is good and I show you the picture, but what if the consumers do not believe me? Yeah, so I add this possibility into this function. So the gamma is the consumer perception and confidence about the quality signal. So it means some special things will can happen sometimes. For example, I use the product certification, and I tell the consumer that my product is the organic apple, but the consumer said, no, I don't believe this. So I don't have the higher willingness to pay. So this could happen. So in order to close to the real world, I formulate the profit function in this way. And according to the, this should be the multiply sign. I don't know how this, okay. According to the envelope theorem, I differentiate the profit function with the different information disclosure strategy. Like if the producer, like the envelope, according to the envelope theorem, we believe that the producer chooses the strategy that can maximize his profit, which means under this strategy, he gets the best cost, price, and quantity. So under the assumption for also the cost, price, and the quantity, and this differentiate functions, we got 2 propositions. So the proposition 1 is the adoption of information disclosure strategy, either the product certification or the in-commerce, or the both. They can increase the cost, production price, sales volume, and revenue. But whether the proposition 2, whether the information disclosure strategy will increase the profit depends on the trade-off between the gain in price and the sales volume, which means the gain in revenue and the increase in the cost. So for the empirical procedure, we use the multi-nominal endogenous switching regression. So it's the short form is MESR. I borrowed this method from these two authors. So the basic idea is we're gonna do two-stage regression. In the first stage, we're modeling the adoption of product certification, like indicated by M. If M is the farmer for M is the strategy for producer I. So in this, this is the probability like function. Okay, behind this function, we think that the producer will choose the strategy with the highest probability. We put the producer's characteristics into our function, and we use the M logic model to estimate the probability for this producer to choose the different strategies. And so we believe if the strategy M have the highest probability, so we think this producer gonna choose the strategy M. So in this way, and once he recall our envelope theorem, once he chooses this strategy, he must have the best cost, price, and revenue under this strategy. So this is the first stage. And for the second stage, we estimate the average treatment effects on the treated for the outcome variable. We have different outcome variables: price, sales volume, cost, and revenues. Yeah, that's in the second stage. This is the interesting part, because we know that although we include a lot of indicators or characteristics of farmers, we still gonna miss some, maybe miss some important variables. So this epsilon maybe includes the important information, and in this way, these two indicators are not independent. So in order to have a consistent estimation of alpha and theta, we incorporate another parameter into our function. Is this lambda? Yeah, we calculate the inverse Mills ratio from the first stage, and then we add another parameter into we add this inverse Mills ratio into our as the second estimation function to capture the unobserved maybe unobserved attributes. So in this way, yeah, we calculate the inverse Mills ratio, and then we have our estimate function, and we use this function to estimate the counterfactual situations for the treatment group. For that means we think the farmers who do not use any information strategy as the control group, and the farmers who use the e-commerce as the treatment group 1, and farmers who use the product certification as the treatment group 2, and then the farmers use both as the treatment group 3. So we compare the real observation number for the treatment group, and then we compare the real observation number with the counterfactual number we estimated from this function. So after we calculated this estimated the performance for the farmers, and we calculate the difference between the real number and estimated number, and then we can see the average treatment effects on the treated. So the data we use is in is actually a program conducted by the Economic Daily and Renmin University of China. This survey covers like 4 years, and then but I only use the data for the last 2 years because they only ask the certification in the last 2 waves. So okay, this is the data distribution map, and this is simple summary table for the different strategies. Like as we can see, most of the farmers, they do not use any information strategy, but 10% they use the e-commerce, and 9% use the certification, and also this is like only 5% who use both. Because we think in our data okay, in China, most of farmers, they have small scale, so it's hard for them to get their product certified because you have to do this a lot of application, and there's a lot of procedures. But we could say there are differences from the green crop producers and cash crop producers, which we can see the cash crop producers, they have the higher possibility to use the e-commerce, and they have the higher possibility to use both of the ways. We think this is because in China, the green crops, they have the minimum price, while let's say just governments can kind of control the price for the green crops, but for the cash crops, they have more room to set their price. Okay, and this is the outcome. This is the outcome summary. We could say for the farmers who use the e-commerce or certification or both, they tend to have the higher price and sales volume and production cost, and also sales revenue. I also calculate those performance with like the per hectare value. And we also can see that for the sales area, while the farmers with e-commerce, they have the higher possibility to sell their products like out of their province. So they can like so maybe they can expand the market and sell more of these products. And this is the characteristic. This is the statistic for the characteristics. So I'm gonna skip this. This is the empirical results for the first stage. So we have we incorporate different characteristics into our first stage, and we found that education and their land scale and also the internet use, they have the positive. Okay, the higher education and the bigger land scale and the internet use of the this information platform is like a program launched by the government. Is also about the internet use. So they have the positive impact on the strategy adoption. So this is the mean results table. We calculate those average treatment effects on the treated, and we found that for the farmers who adopt the information disclosure strategy, they tend to have the higher price and the sales volume, but at the meantime they have the higher production cost. But luckily the increase in the sales revenue are better than the increase in the production cost, so they still have the positive profit. And I separate the farmers into green crop producers and the cash crop producers, and we can see that for the green crop producers, the certification still maintain the positive effects. But for the cash crop producers, the e-commerce maintain the positive effects. And we also separate the farmers into different scales, because we try to see that, okay, if the e-commerce is easy to use for the small farmers, are they gonna have the bigger effect for the small or medium-sized farms? And for the e-commerce, if it requires to the large scale to get certified, will they have the impact or the bigger impact for the large scale producers? And these results that justify our hypothesis. So in conclusion, we employ like more than 3,000 agricultural producers to investigate the impact of product certification and e-commerce on sales price, cost, profit of different kind of crop producers in China. So the estimation results shows that agricultural producers who participate in e-commerce or certification or both were likely to have the higher price, higher sales volume, and also the better sales revenue compared with those who do not engage in anything. So we also find that producers with e-commerce certification or both have a higher production cost, but the revenue are better than the cost, so they can still have the higher profit. But the green crop producers, they have the higher products, they have the higher economic performance with product certification, while the cash crop producers, they have the higher price and sales revenue with the e-commerce. While the heterogeneous results about green and cash crop producers, implying that adopting product certification was beneficial to green crop producers instead of cash crops, while participating in e-commerce was beneficial to cash crop producers. And e-commerce, as for the scale, e-commerce had a better impact on revenue for small and medium scale agricultural producers, while the product certification, they have the greater impact on revenue and profit for large scale agricultural producers. So our finding implies that quality information disclosure should be encouraged as it increases the farmers' price and sales volume, and most important, the profit. But the government should undertake different supporting strategies for different kind of agricultural producers, because they have different crop structure and also different scales. So that's all. Thank you.